Hello and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show, brought to you as always by progressivechristianity.org, a wonderful place to get all of your progressive Christian resources. And you'll want to check out their new website. It's incredible. Follow them on social media. Follow us, the Moonshine Jesus Show, on Facebook, and subscribe to us wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Today we will be talking about Wonka, and something I have to tell you is that if you haven't seen it yet, we will spoil Wonka for you. We're going to let you know everything that happens in Wonka. So if you haven't seen it yet, just know going in that we're going to talk about it. I am joined by Mark Sandlin, as always. How you doing today, Mark?
I am doing great, sir. Excited about this. What a fun kind of family holiday season, perfect little film we get to talk about today.
I know, right? It's very seasonally appropriate. It's fun to watch a film about candy as we enjoy some sweets ourselves, or at least that's my plan. Do you have anything sweet to drink with you today?
Well,
Mark?
I do, since the theme was chocolate throughout the whole thing, even more so than in the original movie. I have gone with a chocolate martini with a little Lindell chocolate bar as my garnish there. This is chocolate liqueur, cream to cacao, vodka, heavy cream mixed together. And it is, I've already pre-tasted it because it looked too lovely, and it is really delicious. How about you? What are you going with? I'm going to go ahead and start drinking. You just let me know what you're having. Though.
Absolutely, you should. So I also went with a chocolate theme because that is pretty much what he was doing in this movie. And so I've made a spiked adult hot chocolate. I've got this in my Squad Goals Golden Girls cup here.
Perfect.
Just hot chocolate and peppermint schnapps topped with some whipped cream here. So
sounds delicious.
Delicious. It is. I sampled mine ahead of time as well. So cheers to you, Mark.
Cheers to you. Looking forward to the show, man.
Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. You're joining us for our Geek Out segment. And as we told you, we'll be talking about the movie Wonka. Wonka, it's a musical origin story of course, none other than Willy Wonka, an aspiring magician, inventor, and chocolatier. And he heads off to the famous chocolate shops of the Gallery Gourmets with dreams of opening his own shop. But he discovers that the industry is run by a cartel of greedy chocolatiers, and he quickly finds himself in debt to a local boarding house / laundrette, as well as in debt to a little orange man named Lofty. By the film's end, though, with the help of his new friend Noodle, both those debts are paid off, and Wonka's new friends have a kind of new lease on life themselves. And Wonka and Lofty begin the work of building Wonka's very own chocolate factory. I'm curious. First question right off the bat. Did we need a Wonka origin story? Did we really?
Okay, this was maybe the prequel I didn't know I needed, because would I have said, you know what I really want to see this year is a Willy Wonka origin story.
Been waiting for years, right?
I had no desire to see this, but I went and thoroughly enjoyed it. And so I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised, but no, I mean, I grew up watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and enjoyed it. We even a couple months ago at church did a theology of Willy Wonka. So I like Willy Wonka. I like Roald Dahl stories, but no, I don't know that we needed this. But did I enjoy it? Yeah, it was a fun kind of just
easy. I had the same.
movie.
kind of the same response. When I heard they were doing one, that was my question. Is the reason I asked it. I was like, do we really need an origin story here? I mean, is it really going to be that much of why do we need this? I don't understand why it's even. And so and I'm going to also say, I am not the big Timothy Chalamet fan that a lot of people are. He's fine. I don't dislike him, but I don't see him as his generation's best actor ever. Like a lot of people are saying that he could easily become. He's fine, whatever. So I went in kind of like, all right, we'll see.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Man, it was so much fun. I don't think I stopped smiling except for the brief moment I cried. I mean, it was just that good, that much constant joy being thrown at you from the screen. Not surprising, knowing that it was from the same director that did Paddington and Paddington 2.
Right.
And I know you think, for the listeners out there, I know you think those are children's movies, and you're right, they are. They also are two of the best children's movies ever made. As a matter of fact, they're probably two of the best movies ever made. So it's not surprising that this movie came off really well done. I really, really genuinely enjoyed it, just like you did. I'm curious, though, did you think that Chalamet's take on Wonka, did it feel like he could grow into being Wilder's version of Wonka?
Yeah, so I know this is a hotly debated topic online. Is this a spiritual prequel to Willy Wonka
is it really?
and the Chocolate Factory? That yeah, because people are wondering. Like some people said, well, is this like the prequel to Johnny Depp? And everyone's like, no, we definitely don't need a prequel to that. And so there's a lot of debate about it being like the spiritual prequel to Willy Wonka, the 1971 Willy Wonka. So here's the thing. I think Chalamet did a great job as the incarnation of, or in this particular incarnation of Willy Wonka. But I think the thing about Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka that I thought was better than Chalamet's,
I agree,
is that he had this twinkle in his eye, where as the children were kind of being punished for the things that they were doing, you were never quite sure if he was really going to let the children die or not. And I mean, that's a part of the brilliance of Gene Wilder's interpretation. Is that it's kind of a fun, lighthearted movie. It has a nod to Roald Dahl's our children's story.
Absolutely. His stop. No, don't. When the kids are all, about to do something that could really kill them. Stop. No, don't. It's just that
and
nice
that's not Timothy Chalamet's take on the character. It's a very like wide-eyed, optimistic take. It doesn't feel like the same person. What do you think?
No, I agree. And that's why I asked the question. I feel like it didn't feel like the same person. I know there's already talk about if it does well enough that maybe there'll be a Wonka 2, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they're living space to get set up for that, to tell that's part of the story of what happens. For instance, Noodle gets really close to him, but we don't see Noodle in the original Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory. So maybe something happens there that gets him jaded. I don't know what really happens, but it feels like there's a lot of story that has to be told between this movie and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory to get that character to become the character that he becomes. And I do think there's 100%. I don't know that I've heard that the director and the writers said that this was this, what did you say, spiritual benefactor of or prequel to it. But there's no doubt that they were tipping their hat to that movie left and right throughout this movie. Over and over again, there were little moments where I remember that. Oh, I remember that. So it's very clear that they were trying to do it. So I was a little surprised about one thing when I got there, and I'm curious. Are you a fan of musicals?
Okay, I love musicals, but I don't know why this didn't occur to me, because I mean the original's a musical, but there were no. I don't remember there being songs in the ads, And so
There
whenever we start off with Willy Wonka singing, that's the first thing. I'm like, oh, this is a musical. Why didn't I know this was a musical? Going in, I had no idea that it was going to be a musical. But I enjoyed it more because of that. I love musicals, and so I was in it more than I probably would have been, because I'm like, oh, I'm kind of invested in this. I
agree. I
thought the music was good.
That's what I was going to ask next. What do you think about the music? So
I thought it was good.
But can you quote any of those songs to me?
The Hat Full of Magic was one. I've got a head full of dreams and a hat full of dreams. Okay, so maybe I can't. Maybe I can't quote any of them. And I know that's one of the criticisms, is both the lyrics and some of the singing of the music throughout.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
We got an Oompa Loompa and we got Pure Imagination, but those are renditions of songs from the original.
And that's kind of what made me recognize the reason I'm asking this question is that we got like Pure Imagination. Well, that's a song that you couldn't forget when you watched that movie the first time.
That's right.
Now, I don't feel like any of these really walked away going, that song's going to get stuck in my head and I'm never going to forget it. Now, what they did with Pure Imagination was pure brilliance. I mean, the way they took it and changed it around and applied it was just fantastic. It's one of the times that I had tears coming out of my eyes. I just thought it was brilliantly done. And Chalamet, there were moments where he was fantastic singing, and there are moments where he was okay enough. Kind of just, that'll work. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm with you. Completely loved that it was a musical. That made it so much fun. One of the other things that made it fun was the bad guys. All of the villains were so almost cartoony, almost Muppety kind of overplayed. Yeah, and made them very interesting. But I'm curious, do you think that make him that silly, because they were sort of silly, does it make it harder to take them seriously as a threat? Did you think?
So it was very campy, and you're very right. The actors who played the villains were very much kind of chewing on the scenery every time they were on the scene or on the screen. And I think we always knew that Willy Wonka was. I mean, we know how the story plays out. That's the thing about a prequel, is we know that he ends up winning. But I think that they still very much made some of their points about, and something I'm sure we're going to talk about in the next segment, about some of the evils of these folks and evils of capitalism. And I think they made those very, very clear points. So I thought the villains were fun to watch. And, in the movie, the original movie, we had, Slugsworth, who ends up not really being Slugsworth.
Right.
But
he certainly came off that way for most of the movie.
He did. And so there's kind of a villain, but the villain really is the factory itself in the original, and even Wonka.
And human greed. And human greed in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm with you.
And so I think this movie is different than that.
Yeah,
we're not fighting, say, greed or any of the 7 deadly sins that the different children inhabit. But but we're talking about kind of an external force as evil. And so I liked them. I enjoyed the villains, and it was kind of fun to have cartoony ones. But how about you? Did you ever feel like they were threats?
No, I absolutely loved all the 3 chocolatiers, and then Miss Scrubs and Bleacher. Like, I loved those bad guys. They were fantastic. I loved that they were cartoony and over the top. I don't know why Muppets, particularly the chocolatiers, felt like real life Muppets almost to me. It was just, that was brilliant.
Now I'm never going to get that image out of my head. I love that.
But it was so much fun. But they never did feel particularly threatening to me, partly because it's a prequel and we know that he's going to be fine, but partly because they just weren't that menacing. They were the comedy. The villains were the comedy. And, for a family friendly movie, that works just fine. But talking about actors and playing roles, what did you think of Hugh Grant's chocolate obsessed sort of leprechaun-y version of an Oompa Loompa?
I don't know how I felt about Hugh Grant. And so like going in, I don't know that I would have seen this movie, in part because whenever I saw the ad, I'm like, Hugh Grant as an Oompa
As an
Loompa?
Oompa Loompa?
Wh-
Exactly.
Why? Like why did they choose him to be the Oompa Loompa?
Right.
So I'm not sure that he added a lot, and certainly not maybe a lot of charisma. I'm kind of indifferent about the Hugh Grant Oompa Loompa. How did you feel about him?
I don't know that I loved that he kind of rewrote what an Oompa Loompa is in terms of the way that his outlook was and that kind of thing. I do like that it was that they. One of the critiques of the original movie is the Oompa Loompas feel like they're like the minority workers kind of thing, and that it's almost a caricature in a very ugly way that's getting presented. So recasting that as a white guy and changing kind of the role he plays, I can see why they may have made that choice. I don't know that I'd love his. For me, he just felt like an adult leprechaun the whole time. It just didn't feel like a. Yeah, he did the Oompa Loompa song, but other than that, he's a reverse leprechaun. Instead of the pot of gold at the end, he was going and stealing chocolate, and that was his pot of gold. But I will also have to say, every time he was on the screen, I couldn't not pay attention to him. And at first, it was because the CGI was just kind of weird, but then I got past that pretty quickly, actually, surprisingly. And I just felt like there was something about the character that demanded attention. I don't know.
So if there's a sequel and Hugh Grant comes back as an Oompa Loompa with a larger part, what do you think? Are you gonna be excited about that?
I actually think I would be in for it. I think I'd be in for it. Yeah, I do. I think I would be in for it. Well, listen, this is such a fun movie. We've left out so many fun little parts that we could be talking about, but we do need to get on into the more serious parts of what we're here to talk about, and talk about a little bit of the politics in particular, because there's so much of it going on, and religion as well. It's interesting that this family-friendly movie is actually, it doesn't pull the punches when it comes to some political stuff and some religious stuff. So this should be fun to talk about. So we're going to take a really quick break, and we'll catch y'all on the other side.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We are entering our Theopolitico segment. And as Mark just mentioned, this is a fun, family-friendly movie that is lighthearted and also is kind of a heavy hitter in terms of both Theo and Politico the segment. So I was really kind of shocked by that in a lot of ways. And maybe we should just dive right in, Mark. One of the refrains that we get, especially when dealing with the chocolate cartel, is that the greedy beat the needy, every time. Greedy beat the needy every time. Is that true in the movie, Mark? And is that true in our lives? Do we see that in our world?
By the end of the movie, it is definitely not true. But when you are down and out and getting stepped upon and shut down at every turn, it is so easy to feel like that is just a reality of life, a reality of living in a non-regulated capitalistic society kind of thing. It's so easy. But they prove to themselves over the course of the movie that that is not always the reality. And I think everything I just said is also true in real life. It's very easy to feel like that is a reality when at every turn, every choice you make, every kind of moment that you try to lift yourself out of wherever space you're in that you don't want to be, that someone stomps on you and pushes you back in, and the rules and the regulations prevent you from growing out of it. I really think that that is a real, I don't want to make light of how real that feeling is and how real that seems, but we do see in the world folks and organizations and groups that are working against systems that are designed to keep people marginalized. And we do see wins. They're not as big and as many and as frequent as we would like to see them, but we do see them. So in general, no, that isn't always true. I mean, what was your take? It's a clever line. It's one of those lines when I heard it, I went, God, I wish I'd have written that at some point, because that's really such a good one. Succinct way of describing capitalism. It was just brilliant. I was like, that's good writing right there.
I think that capitalism is designed to make that be true. That that the capitalistic system is designed to reward those who are greedy at the expense of other people, and I think we see that over and over again. And I agree with you, Mark, that we see small wins, but the small wins often don't feel like wins for people who are living in an extremely marginalized fast state. And so I think that, even though there are different systems of government around the world, that, because the U.S. kind of is one of the leaders in that, it ends up being kind of a world capitalistic system in which those who hoard the most, those who seek the most, who are the greediest, end up with a lot. And people who are the poorest of the poor and living in destitution and some of the poorest countries often they're not going to win, and unless people with power decide to do something different. And I think that is one of the core messages of Jesus, is that if we're Jesus followers, that's not okay. We can't be okay with that, because our God is a God who wants everyone to have enough. And so in this, Mark, we see that the chocolate cartel, the three main chocolatiers, are working together to put down all competition. Do we see any corporations doing things like that in our world today, Mark? There's
no, we have regulations that prevent that from happening, and they would be penalized so severely that they're probably scared of doing it.
I'm sure.
I don't know.
Terrifying.
Maybe the gas people, pharmaceuticals maybe are okay. You know what? I'm probably wrong on what I just said. No, yes, we see it all the time. We see it all the time. This collusion, greed knows no boundaries, man. Yeah, even though there are some laws that are in place that are meant to prevent that from happening, it happens all the time. The fact that we see corporations making more profit than they've ever made before, while the average person struggles and struggles and struggles more than they ever have before, just tells you how fixed and rigged the system is, and how much these corporations, even when they're not related, work behind the scenes and work together, sometimes overtly and sometimes not so overtly, to present a front that pretty much marginalizes everyone else in terms of their economic ability to be mobile. That'd be my take on it. Anyway, what do you think? I mean,
that's a great point. Certainly, we see a lot of collusion. We see and a lot of effort to influence policy in ways that favors corporations and certainly over individuals. And so as I was watching that, I'm like, I can't believe we're watching a children's movie where we're seeing kind of corporate greed as one of the primary antagonists here. Yeah, right.
I thought it was brilliant writing to be able to make it feel like a family fun. Like I said, I'm smiling the whole time through this movie, except for when I was crying when Noodle meets her mom and all of that. Yeah, and the pure imagination comes out, and it's just all of a sudden the lyrics mean something different. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
But in the midst of it, I'm also recognizing they're not pulling many punches. This is sort of hard hitting about the haves and the have-nots and capitalistic society and how it marginalizes folks. It's crazy.
Yeah, and tied into that, they also pulled in the church and acknowledged that the church was complicit in all of this greed. And so, Mark, I wondered about your take on that, about the church's complicity in corporate greed. Am I reading too much into that, or did you see
Oh
that
no,
message there as well?
that was 100% there, and it was very much. We got to see the church actually being involved in it, but it's such a sort of metaphor for the way that the church sits back too frequently and doesn't speak out when corporations are allowing their greed to marginalize people and step on people and make life really, really difficult and make it hard to survive. What the church should be doing, if we're following the lead of the teachings of Jesus, it's the thing that got him killed, as a matter of fact, is that we should be confronting systems that marginalize people and step on them, particularly for the purpose of gaining money and the greed. It's why he flipped the tables in the temple grounds. It's that kind of abuse of power when it comes to money and you're taking advantage of people is exactly the thing that we should never tolerate. And we should always be flipping tables, turning tables, and standing up and destroying the systems that allow for that to happen and rebuilding from the ground up in a way that includes everyone and makes it a much more level playing field.
That's a great point, Mark. And I was thinking as I watched that, both about the ways that church is complicit in systemic injustice and the ways that you've described. But I was also thinking about ways that the church is just kind of an expression of cowardice in all kinds of areas that in American society, a lot of times the church serves just to make people feel comfortable or feel good. And the church is often unwilling to really address some of our largest problems because we're afraid of like making people mad. Like, well, what if we from the pulpit take a stance on a particular issue, like what if we take a stance on the death penalty, or what if we take a stance on LGBT issues, or what if we take a stance on voting rights, or any number of things? Who are we going to lose? Is our church going to be able to survive? And we don't find enough of the church saying, no, these are moral issues, and if we're going to exist as followers of Jesus, then we have to take stances on these things.
If anything, the church is doing exactly what the corporations that we're supposed to be standing up against are doing. They're saying our growth and keeping our membership and having people to give donations to the church is much more important than the right thing, much more important than individual lives, much more important than making sure people aren't marginalized. So the church definitely is guilty of that. And I also need to say, I'm reading the comments as people post them on all the different social medias. And Marshall, if I said pharmacists instead of pharmaceutical organizations, that's on me. I got no problem with pharmacists. It's the pharmaceutical organizations that I think collude with a lot of the price fixing and all that kind of stuff. So Marshall, you're good to go, man. I love me some pharmacists. They make my life a lot better. So I just needed to
thank
slip
you,
that
pharmacists, for giving us medicine. But pharmaceutical companies, stop exploiting the poor.
Exactly.
and stop trying to keep medicine out of the hands of those in need. So, I was surprised to see this message about corporations and about church collusion in there. Although I did enjoy seeing Rowan Atkinson as a priest. I thought that was a lot of fun.
I don't know how that slipped by. I had no idea it was going to happen. And when he showed up, I was so happy, man. I was so happy about that. I just love him all the time. I don't care what he's doing. I just love it. Was brilliant. I love that they had him cast.
And he has got some great skits in his stand-up as a priest. And so that was kind of a fun nod to all of that as well. I thought that was fun. Okay, so one other thing that Noodle said that caught my attention was when Willy Wonka gave her first chocolate and she tasted it. She just took it and then sat it down, and she said, "I wish you hadn't done that. Now each day I don't have chocolate will be a bit harder." What comment do you think that was trying to make, Mark, on society?
I think there's several things it could be. For me, I immediately took it as folks who come into situations where someone's marginalized or is in a very kind of space of despair, and give them a little cookie, a little something. Oh, here you go. That's going to make it so much better, isn't it? And yes, in the moment you feel like you're doing something kind, but you're not reading the bigger picture. You're not seeing the system that's caused what has happened. You're not recognizing that rather than fixing the problem, you're emphasizing there's a problem. And I thought it was kind of a brilliant way of pointing that out. How about you? What did hit you when you heard that?
Yes, similar. And I appreciate that, Mark, because I think churches in particular are really guilty of that on what churches often call mission trips.
Yes.
Where 100%. They go and they do exactly that. They kind of help in a way that is really just you mean a white savior.
You mean working tourism trips?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Working tourism trips, where it's about making you feel good about kind of being a white savior for a time, and then then creating a pattern that disrupts actual way of lives and causes more harm than good in the grand scheme of things. And so I think that's one call to churches is to engage in long-term systemic change and to partner with organizations that don't just go and do one-offs, but are there working with people and especially programs that are developed by the society themselves that you're trying to go in and help. And you develop a relationship that's not a one-off, that is ongoing. Where you continually support stuff. Yeah, it does, because then it's
could not be more in agreement.
So I've got like a ton more questions about this, but
no doubt.
If we keep going, we're not going to get to our favorite section.
We can't do that.
No, we can't. We've got to get to it.
Yes.
Because we've got to go to our Make Me Look Stupid segment where we can try and make each other look stupid. So let's take a quick break, have another drink, and come back and try and make each other look stupid.
Welcome to the Make Me Look Stupid segment of our show. It's one of our favorite segments. And I often say, sometimes it really is, can I ask a question that's going to make my co-host stumble, falter a little bit, grasp at answers? Sometimes I'm going to ask a question that I don't understand, and you get the opportunity to make me look stupid. And such is the case today. This bothered me probably more than it should have bothered me. What was the point? How did it further the storyline outside of some cute little things that happened? Why did they make Willy illiterate?
The best I could figure was it was kind of some comic relief. Especially whenever they were in the zoo and he went and opened the tiger cage. Other than maybe it showed his special relationship with Noodle, as she got to kind of teach him a lesson. I thought it was also interesting that they chose a young black character to teach the white male character how to read. She was better educated than he was. And she was kind of looking out for him. But it was an interesting choice that didn't make a whole lot of sense. That was the only thing I could think of as I was watching it. Did you come up with
I could think of nothing. I was like, one part was like, well, this is a family friendly, like we want kids to be into this, and you're casting the hero as illiterate. I guess maybe if you're thinking that the majority of the kids are going to watch are kids who are currently trying to learn to read, and Willy Wonka learns to read during the movie, maybe it gives them encouragement. But also, the kids who already can read, it feels like you're doing the opposite. You're saying, "Hey, look at this hero. He didn't have to learn to read, but he was fine." I don't know. It kind of hit me weird. It hit me weird.
You can already make chocolate. I mean,
right.
Drop out of school, kids. Who cares?
Right. Drop out of school. Open your own chocolate factory. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Especially if you're a magician. Why don't you drop out of school and learn magic, kids? I hear everyone really appreciates a good magic trick and doesn't find it annoying if you want to show it in social situations too. So go for that.
Well, I don't. I'm a big fan of magic. I'm all about
it.
But I don't.
Good.
Oh man, I do. But I also don't think that you're like it's one in a million. It's one
I'm
in a million.
kind of a magic geek too. I mean, it didn't surprise me that both of us actually really kind of like magic.
Hey, listen,
surprise me at all.
Penn and Teller's Fool Us is scheduled TV viewing for me, man. I'm not going to miss it. I just love it. I absolutely love it. So, but no, I never could figure it out. I found it weird. I don't know why they did it, but okay. Your turn though. Your turn to make me look stupid. I think my question really kind of missed the point of the whole segment. I think I made us both look stupid, and that doesn't work. That's not good, man. We don't need that.
Well, neither one of us know. This is a call out to the writers.
Man.
We need an explanation.
Please let us know.
Okay, so this I don't think is a make me look stupid question necessarily either. I'm just curious about this. Yeah. So there are a couple of lines that I'm curious about. One is, I guess they both have to do with Willy Wonka's mom. So Willy Wonka's mom says, every good thing in this world started with a dream. And then she also says in her note to him, whenever he finally opens the chocolate bar, it's not the chocolate that matters, it's the people you share it with. So, Mark, are these overly sappy sentiments or good theology?
Yes and no. The first one is overly sappy theology, overly sappy sentimental bullcrap. Not everything starts with a wish or a dream or whatever the crap it is that she said. No, sometimes good things just sort of happen by mistake. Sometimes they happen out of the mixed mess that the world is. Sometimes it just, if we're going to go all biblical on this, creation started from the tohu wabohu, the mixed mess, the chaos, the craziness, and creation came from it. So no, it's not always a wish. No, it's not always, but is the best chocolate the chocolate you share with friends? That's fantastic theology. Yes, everything that matters in this world has to do with relationship, period. So if you want it to be better, if you want it to be more meaningful, if you want it to make an impact, it is about relationship. That'd be my take. What do you think?
I agree. So I think it's interesting that like a lot of the things that happen are sometimes things that we couldn't even fathom. I mean, good or bad. And so I think that's one of the things that we can get wrapped up in pretty easily is thinking a lot about either like thinking about these things that we want to pursue, like these dreams that we have that are inventions of our mind that may or may not be realistic. And similarly, we can also come up with all kinds of possibilities of bad things that could happen. And people can obsess over, really bad things that could happen, most of which won't. And I think that, if we're thinking about a God who participates in our lives in some way, whatever that means, however that is, that a lot of times, that stuff happens kind of organically in unpredictable ways. I mean, maybe it's just the flow of life that through conversations, through relationships you build, through just the chaos of everyday events, that is kind of what shapes our lives. And so I think that God works a lot in those ways. I've been influenced a lot by Taoism, and I think a lot about, the way that the divine, the other runs through our lives. And if we're open to that movement, that it can influence the way we live our lives. But yeah, absolutely. It's not the chocolate that matters, it's who you share it with. That I think that is exactly what like the communion meal ought to be about when it's at its best, is that like
Absolutely.
any meal you're sharing with anybody that's about building relationship, that's a Jesus meal. That is,
That is
having a
an
beer with
experience,
somebody.
an experience of the divine.
It's an experience of the divine.
It is in community that we maybe
Mm.
most can connect with the divine.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that that if we would focus on that more, like how we let go of like even expectations about what things ought to be, and just embrace for what is and who we're with, and all of that, that it leads to a much more fulfilling life and a more fulfilling theology too, if we see God in the midst of all of that. So I agree with you, Mark.
All right, so listen, I'm going to take co-host advantage here, and we've got a little extra time. We got through our Make Me Look Stupid segment. I want to imagine with you. We've talked about some of the issues that we see in the movie. It's a brilliant movie. Everyone, hear this before I go into that. Everyone needs to go see this movie. It's just no matter what mood you're in when you go in, it will be better when you go out. If you're in a great mood, if you go in a good mood, you're going to be in a great mood. If you go in a kind of I don't know mood, you're going to come out a lot happier than you were when you went in. Go see it. It's just a good movie. It needs to be seen. If enough people do that, we might get a Wonka 2. What should happen in Wonka? What needs to happen? What's the connective tissue between Wonka and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory that needs to happen in the next one to make the whole thing make sense? What do you think?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this since our first segment when we were talking about Timothy Chalamet's performance and the difference between his and Gene Wilder's. And it was occurring to me that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is at the very end of his career, looking at someone to take over the Chocolate Factory. So I think we need to see Willy Wonka start up his chocolate factory and then have some experiences that cause him to be kind of pessimistic about the state of the world. Yeah. And so I think we need to cut down his wide-eyed optimism. So we see him become more pessimistic until he can be kind of shown a different way of seeing things by Charlie when he comes into the chocolate factory. What do you think?
No, I'm completely with you. I think that we need to understand why he gets a little dark and cynical. I think that's probably a lot of opportunity to do a story around Noodle in some way. So that could be interesting. I think we need to know about his father. I also think we need to understand why he went from only doing chocolate to doing chocolate and candy. That needs to be part of the story. And then I also want to see like a storyline about what happens, because he's sort of a villain to the Oompa Loompas. I want to know what gets the Oompa Loompas to come and work at his factory. I want to hear their story of almost, I guess, maybe forgiveness towards him. The fact that he stole the 4 beans that they had, and now he's their villain. I kind of want to hear that story, honestly.
Or maybe he's darker, and maybe he's captured the Oompa Loompas and enslaved them to work in his factory.
Oh no! I don't want that dark of a Willy Wonka, man. No.
You don't want a dark Willy Wonka.
I don't want him that dark. I like the little.
Who's going to enslave Oompa Loompas?
I kind of like the cynical.
Die in his factory.
Well, he didn't
that might be
actually.
A little bit. No, he didn't. That's true. He as far as we know, they were saved.
We do need to wrap this up. We need to let folks know we're going to, for the holidays, we're taking a couple of weeks off, but we have really great news. We shared it last week on the show, is that our next episode will be one of our rare. We only get to do this about twice a year, where me and Caleb are actually in the same spot together, side by side. Yes. When we do the show. And I don't know about you. For me, man, there's so much more energy. It's so much more exciting. I love when we get this opportunity, right?
Yes, it's fun to be together and to actually be sitting there drinking together. That's fun. Yeah. But it's also fun We appreciate all of you in the virtual audience, but it's also a lot of fun to have like real live people surrounding us and interacting with us, asking us questions.
A whole nother level of energy and everything. So
yeah,
and that is our promise this time around. We've done it at Wild Goose, but we haven't done it when we gather in San Diego. But we are going to this time our Make Me Look Stupid segment. We're going to turn over to the guests that are attending the show, so it's gonna be a free for all, man. I don't know. It might get ugly. I don't know. We'll have to see. How it goes.
I'm sure it'll be a lot of my congregation, and they will be chomping at the bit to make me look stupid. They're gonna be ready.
And listen, for those of you who may be in San Diego, we will let you know where this is going to happen. We'll put it on the Moonshine Jesus Facebook page. About a week or so out to let you know where we'll be doing it. So if you want to show up, you can show up and join us for that. We'd certainly enjoy to see all of you. But let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So I should say it's Uptown Tavern at noon.
Okay.
So
Uptown Tavern
if you're
noon.
in San Diego, Uptown Tavern at noon. It's on University and Hillcrest. And I think we agreed to talk about Aquaman.
Yes.
And so I'm really looking forward to this. The last few DC movies have really kind of underperformed, but Aquaman was the highest grossing DC movie, and it was pretty good.
It was decent for a DC movie. It was pretty good.
I know. I'm sorry that we have to have that disclaimer.
And they're bringing Black Adam in, which is one of my favorite villains. So this should be fun. We'll see how that all goes. But I'm excited about this. It should be a lot of fun. So anyway, we take a couple of weeks off. That said, we hope that you all have happy holidays very much. And we give so much appreciation. Here we are at the end of the year, our second year of rebooting the Moonshine Jesus show. Hard to imagine, right? 2 years, man.
2 years? That's insane. Yeah, I can't believe
crazy.
That.
It is. But, the only reason we get to do it is because of all of you, the folks who tune in and watch us live, those who download us on the podcast. It is the biggest gift I get all year long is that you folks come and hang out with us and listen to us and allow me and my good buddy Caleb to just geek out and do a little theological pondering about pop culture. Yeah. It's the best. So thank you all very much. And we'll see you the next time on the Moonshine Jesus show, which will be next year. But I'm going to leave you with a quote from the great Willy Wonka. I said, "Good day, sir."